Welcome to Souljourner Truth, where we'll find our way home together. I'm Kimberly, and just like you, I want more joy, more peace, more prosperity, and more love in my life. Every episode, we'll examine a soul-stirring question, we'll walk it out with practical, easy-to-manage steps, and then we'll bring it home by integrating and embodying what we've just learned. If you're ready to come home to the best version of yourself, then walk with me. Hello, fellow travelers. It's Kimberly, your guide and your host. So, here we are at episode 4, and you may be wondering, where are we going? Let me reassure you, there is a method to this madness. And if you know me, you know I have a plan. In fact, I've mapped out an entire arc for our first season together. From chapter 1, The Awakening, to chapter 2, Shadow and Truth, all the way to chapter 5, The Return Home. I've got you. So know that I'm not just talking at you week by week. I am leading us somewhere with intention. And so today, I want to start getting into the crux of chapter 1, The Awakening, and talk about the first whisper. How will I know when I hear it? How will I know when Source is trying to guide me? And the honest answer is, you may not. You may not recognize it at all, because guidance, it's not always a scream. It's not always some big dramatic turning point or a lightning bolt moment. I mean, some people do experience those kinds of cracked open awakenings, moments that feel undeniable, unmistakable, impossible to ignore, like Noah being commanded to build an ark in the Bible, or Arjuna receiving guidance from Krishna about how to live in alignment with his deeper duty in the Bhagavad Gita. Or what about the Prophet Muhammad receiving explicit instruction from the angel Gabriel in the cave of Hira? But we're not talking about anything nearly that dramatic. For most of us regular folk, the whispers are quiet, imperceptible, and often easy to explain away. So here's the possibility I want to offer you. Last week we agreed that there is a source, and that source offers guidance. So let's continue to hold that and think about this. Source may already be whispering to you. It may even be screaming at you. And because you're not quite sure what to listen for yet, you may not even be noticing. So let me offer you a few ways that your internal guidance from Source can show up in your life. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. These are just a few ways. So sometimes your internal guidance shows up as coincidence. Sometimes it's a gut nudge. Sometimes it's repeated patterns in your life. Sometimes it's your physical body giving you signals. And sometimes it's that wild light bulb idea. So let's dig into a couple of these. What about coincidence? You think of someone you haven't spoken to in years, and they text you that afternoon. A book cover at Barnes & Noble catches your eye, and 3 different people bring up that book to you in the same week. You hear the same phrase, the same idea repeated, or you run into the same opportunity over and over again in completely unrelated places. And if you're kind of listening, you may pause and think, that's weird, that's funny. But most of the time, we blow right through these little signposts. We chalk them up to timing or algorithms or probability. Basically, we call them coincidence, and we consider them nothing. But they're not nothing. they aren't. Coincidences, or as Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith likes to call them, coincidences, are one of the ways that Source connects to your internal guidance to help lead you in a particular direction. Not in a you must go this way kind of way, but in a gentle, like, if you want to go this way, here are some guideposts to help you get there. Sometimes your internal guidance is trying to teach you something, inviting you to see something differently or make a different choice than you've ever have before. And one of the ways we catch that invitation is through the patterns that show up in our lives. You find yourself in the same conversation or the same conflict or the same type of relationship dynamic. Now, I know every single one of us has that friend, or maybe we are that friend, who is constantly on your couch crying about the relationship they're in. And it may be different relationships, but each with the same pattern. Or it may be the same relationship and the people keep fighting the same fight over and over again. And it's completely obvious to you from the outside that this person just keeps choosing the same exact type of partner, or this couple keeps rehashing the same argument. Even if the details change a little bit each time, these are patterns repeating, and it's often easier to see them in other people's lives than in our own. But can you see the patterns in your life? I know I can. Just sticking with the romantic partner example, although this could be any type of pattern. For me, I was in a decade-plus relationship with a particular type of person. And then for 15 years, 15, after that relationship ended, I kept dating the same exact type of person and wondering why the relationships never worked. And I would always notice some random similarities at the beginning, but then I would write it off and tell myself, oh no, this will be different. This is a different person. This relationship was gonna work. But it never worked because it was never different. Because I literally kept choosing the same, no shade to all the men I've loved before, but I kept choosing the same emotionally unavailable partner over and over again, just in a different costume, time and time again. And it wasn't until I finally made a very conscious choice to choose differently that the pattern broke and I got a different outcome in my life. Because sometimes the same pattern keeps showing up, and it will show up in different ways, in different guises, in different costumes, but usually a little louder each time until we notice it, until we respond differently, until we make a conscious and different choice. So, patterns can be one of the ways that Source is inviting us to make a different choice, to stop choosing that same thing that doesn't actually breathe life into us, to begin to heal the deeper fears or old wounds we may still be carrying, the ones that keep tripping us up and blocking what we say we want out of life. Sometimes your internal guidance is sounding an alarm, asking you to pay attention to something you might not be ready to see or to name consciously. Maybe it's a migraine headache that shows up every time your in-laws come over for dinner. Maybe it's an upset stomach every month when your bills are due. Or maybe it's that whenever you have a big project at work, you notice that more and more of your hair than usual starts making an appearance in your sink and your shower. These are all signals that our internal guidance is giving us that show up in the body, letting us know that something in our lives may be misaligned or requires our attention. And for me, this has often shown up as chronic hives in the body. I first started noticing my chronic hives around 2018, right around the time I started to feel the first rumblings that being a big law lawyer might not be for me. The hives were intense. They would break out on my body anytime there was time pressure to complete a task. Like I would get out of the shower just trying to get ready to go to dinner, which is not a particularly stressful activity. And I would end up sitting on my big blue couch here for 20 minutes, just clawing and scratching at my legs and arms because they were covered in these incredibly itchy hives. And I literally could not stop scratching long enough to get dressed. My doctor prescribed allergy medication, which it seemed to help. But I eventually decided to stop taking it for a lot of reasons, including because it just didn't want to mask whatever signal my body might be giving me. Eventually, the hives went away, but they would pop back up at big work stress moments. And when I finally left big law completely, they disappeared. And I thought, yes! Okay, check, resolved. As long as I don't have a big law job anymore, I won't have the hives. But recently, they've come back. And my first thought was, dang, homie, actually, I'm still a lawyer. Maybe this is my body saying that just being a lawyer isn't for me, period. But even now, with what I would consider a relatively manageable work schedule, they're still happening. So, I don't know, maybe it's the combined demands of a still pretty busy full-time job, pouring love and energy into building this community with Souljourner Truth, being present in a new and beautiful romantic relationship, and consistently showing up for my 14-year-old dog, George. All I know is the hives are back, and I can't quite figure out what they're trying to get my attention about this time. So for this week, I'm not asking you to follow anything, fix anything, or even figure anything out. I'm just asking you to notice, right now, as you're sitting here, see if you can recall where you may have already noticed a coincidence, a gut nudge, a repeated pattern, something in your body, or a sudden light bulb moment. And now that you've noticed it, you don't need to interpret it or analyze it or decide what it means. But let's also make sure we're not throwing it away and calling it nothing. Because this might just be the whisper. So, for the rest of the week, take a few moments at the end of each day and ask yourself, did anything try to get my attention today? And if the answer is yes, see if you can remember how it showed up. Was it a coincidence, a pattern, something in your physical body, a gut nudge, a light bulb idea? You don't have to solve it. You don't have to respond to it. Just begin to hear it, to recognize the sound of the whisper. And next week, we'll begin to explore what it actually looks like to live a soul-led life and to follow that whisper. Because noticing the whisper is one thing, but learning how to respond to that guidance with integrity across the different areas of your life, that's where the real journey begins. Until then, may your soul's journey be joy-filled and abundantly blessed, and may you continue to shine your light so brightly that it illuminates the path for you and for every being you meet along the way. I release this prayer, knowing it is already done. Now, so be it. Thank you so much for walking with me today. Until we walk again, see you next week.